Welcome, everybody. My name is Melissa Jelson, faculty in the Department of Modern and Classical Languages and Literatures. I'm here today because I'm currently serving as the chair of the University Senate, and it's my distinct pleasure to introduce to you today the president of the University of North Dakota, Dr. Robert Kelley.
Thank you, Melissa. It's always a pleasure to be introduced by the University Senate. Well, good afternoon. Welcome to the State of the University address, the beginning of 2015. It's a very appropriate time for us to do this. I want to spend most of our time together really talking about the future. I'll start out by saying just a few words about kind of a snapshot of where we are at the moment. I think most of you will be very familiar with what I say. But when we start talking a little bit more about the future, I think I'm going to be able to present some fairly new ideas to you. And I'm going to be asking for a lot of help with our university as we go forward together in its future. The slide behind me kind of underscores the nature of what we're going to be summarizing for the next 25 minutes or so. We're going to be talking about Vision 2020, obviously the year 2020, 5 years from now. And we're going to be talking a little bit about Exceptional UND and how do we make our university even more exceptional. We're going to be talking about the road to exceptional. I won't take credit for that phrase, I have to tell you. I have in my mind music being played, you know, the road to something else with, I'm going to show my age here, Bing Crosby maybe singing along. Classic movie time, Turner movies. But I think we do have something to pay attention to here on the road to exceptional. We are getting there. We know how to get there. We know what the path is, and we're going to be sharing that so that we can go down that road together to that exceptional future. I always want to start out by saying that the University of North Dakota is indeed a center for higher education. We learn together, we teach together. This is our first and primary highest mission, teaching and learning. As we do that, our learning embodies also the creation of new knowledge through our scholarship, through our research in our laboratories, in our libraries, and our museums. All of the ways that we gain new insights into the issues that face humanity. Natural questions, social science questions, philosophical questions, all of the things that we approach as scholars and the ways and means by which we approach finding solutions and finding answers to this learning. Because we do this, we are ranked by the Carnegie Foundation as a high research intensive university. And it gives me a great pride to talk about the fact that as we focus on our students, as we focus on our teaching and learning, as we focus on our academics, we are highly ranked for doing so in the Carnegie rankings. So if I could summarize what I've just said, UND is a vibrant university. We are strong. We are doing what it is the state wants us to do, and we are doing it, I think, exceptionally well. And that's exactly the message that I and several of the Vice Presidents DiLorenzo, Brecky, Wynn, delivered just a few weeks ago to the House Appropriations Committee down in the 64th legislative session in Bismarck. Let me summarize just a couple of the examples that we gave to that committee a few weeks ago. This semester, we have the largest first-day spring enrollment in the history of the university, a little under 14,000, 13,800. Our priority for the past few years has been to stabilize our enrollments and to increase the quality in that entering class. And our increased recruitment efforts, our management efforts, our scholarship support efforts, our entering freshman class has had the highest academic credentials in the history of our university. The ACT score is just a little below 24, the highest average GPA in the history of any entering class, 3.4. I also am very glad to say that we have our most diverse group of students in that freshman class. Now, in addition to these intensive recruitment efforts that have gone into these classes, We're working very, very hard to ensure that our students do have a successful career here at the university. We want to retain them. We want them to stay with us into the sophomore, junior, and senior years. We want them to graduate in about 4 years if they can. I'll be saying more about that in just a moment. Some of the plans that we have going forward over the next few years that will ensure that our students can get through in 4 years. And again, as a result of some very, very intentional efforts, this year we have retained about 80% of our students from the previous semester into this current semester. And we've also retained about 80% of our students who have gone from the freshman to the sophomore year. Now that's up from about 75%. It's still below the national average. We'll be shooting to break through the national average. And I would like to see us hit the 90% within the next year or two. I want to say thanks to all of you who are involved almost on a daily basis with advising, mentoring our students. This is one of the principal ways by which we will achieve these advances in our retention rates and our graduation rates. So for all of you, staff, faculty that are involved daily with our students, thank you. I also want to emphasize that what I've just said is the first tenet of our Exceptional UND, enriching our student experience. Obviously, we must do everything we can to achieve positive outcomes for our first and highest priority. As we work to do the best we can for our students, we need to continue to be, I think, even more vibrant and more vigorous in our approaches to enhancing our university. Need to turn our attention to the future, not necessarily to the past, but always look ahead, learning from the past, but we've got to envision that future and we have to make it happen together. And I have to emphasize again, together. No one individual, no one department, no one college can achieve what the university collectively must do, and we are that university. So let me spend the rest of my time here this afternoon with you on the 2020 vision. How are we going to deal with what we have now? How are we going to fulfill our goals? What do those goals look like? And how do they relate to the 4 tenets of Exceptional UND? I have repeated these so many times in front of and with you that I'm sure you've got them memorized as well as I do. But just to repeat, we encourage gathering in addition to enriching our student experience. We encourage gathering. We do facilitate collaboration. We put a value on collaborating in teaching and in learning. We want to expand UND's presence, not only in the state, but in our region and our nation, and indeed the world. And we want to improve and enhance the quality of our lives, our students' lives, the lives of our fellow citizens. And this is an exceptional university. So as we move into the road to exceptional, let me talk a little bit about collaboration. I want to extend some thanks to, Melissa introduced me, the University Senate leadership, the staff and student Senate leadership. They've worked together through the President's Cabinet this year in a very collaborative way. And much of what I'm going to share with you has been done through their work. One of the things going forward that we're going to have to work on together is how do we identify the priorities in our academic programs? How do we optimize our opportunities? How do we rank all of the issues that are facing us? And how do we find the resources to allocate to those priorities so that we can achieve success within that priority level? And the councils and the senates have been working together to develop a program called SOAR, S-O-A-R, Strategic Optimization and Alignment of Resources. I want to emphasize that this is the best example that I can imagine of collaborative governance within a university, working together to achieve mechanisms by which we can identify and prioritize programs. Now, you've got to be able to run the prioritization process pretty much concomitant with how do you align resources? How do you identify resources, dollars, human resources, classroom facilities, laboratories, to align themselves so that you can achieve appropriate successes in the priorities that you've identified. And we are doing this through an initiative that we just have codenamed after the consultants, the Huron Initiative. So we've got 2 programs going on that are joined at the hip. One is SOAR, the identification of those program priorities, and then the Huron Initiative on how do we affect some kind of financial reallocation so that we can move resources behind the priorities without diminishing other needed programs within the institution. So there are a couple of things here I'll just say in summary. We've obviously got to improve the alignment of our mission, and that mission changes almost on a weekly basis with our strategic priorities and our resources. This has to be very transparent. We've got to all understand how we're doing this. Since we're working on a collaborative model, how do we keep transparent so that everybody can understand this creation of a greater correlation between decision-making and the alignment of our resources? And there are websites to which you can go to identify answers to that issue. And we've also got to collectively increase the understanding of our resources that are available to us so that as we provide alignments, we also provide incentives to reward the innovations behind those priorities. So there are sort of 5 broad goals that I'll introduce to you here that the university will be working on for the next 5 years. And these are stretch goals. These are big, hairy, audacious goals that we want to achieve within our university as we go forward. This is consistent with the State Board of Higher Education strategic plan, and we've worked on these, and these 5 platforms, I think these 5 pillars, will help us as we work together. So as we look at institutional goals and we try to understand how these indeed are aspirational, stretch goals for 5 years, I'll summarize them and you can read them very, very quickly. And I'm going to work through these to a modest level of depth. It's imperative that our university continue to grow. And in that regard, the state expects us to be able to meet workforce needs, and we also expect of ourselves to be able to provide the finest education that we can for those increased individuals in our state. So obviously we have to equip our students to be successful, and I think it's a very reasonable goal to say that we will increase the retention of our first-year freshmen 90%, increase the percentage of students who will then graduate in 4 years. So as you look at that goal, stick in your mind 90% will be a retention rate that we'll be aspiring to as we work together going forward. If you look at the second pillar, there's a number of 16,000 on the top. This is going to require some work on our part because if we retain our students and if we graduate our students in a reasonable amount of time, and if we recruit more students through all of the incentives that we can put before students, primarily outstanding, exceptional academic programs, I believe that we, by creating those programs that people need and that people want, and if we put them into a sequence and a program that is attractive to them, we will be able to increase the enrollments on this campus. And I think a goal that is reasonable over 5 years would be to grow to 16,000 students in our freshman entering class. Now, if you're thinking along with me, that's going to require not only faculty and staff support, but facilities, and we're going to be talking about that in just a moment. That third pillar has to do with our continued emphasis as a research institution on our scholarship. And this, again, will require all of us in every department, in every laboratory, in every enterprise. If we are going to attain a goal of $125 million as our sponsored program expenditures by 2020, this is going to take some work on our part. Right now, we are slightly below $100 million in sponsored program research expenditures. To add another $25 million to that, with the current funding environment, both state and federal, we're going to have to get to work. So this is a good goal for us, one that I am pretty confident that we will meet in 5 years, but this will put us up into a different ranking in the Carnegie Foundation rankings. We've also got to pay attention not only to students and to research, but we've got to pay attention to our faculty. And this, the fourth pillar there, where you see the 100, that's a goal for our endowments, for student scholarships, and for faculty named chairs. We have had, I'm seeing Deanna sitting here, Deanna Carlson-Zink, the executive director of our foundation. As many of you know, just a year and a half ago, we closed a very, very successful campaign. But If I could say that we are in a silent phase re-identifying our new goals, the goals to continue to build our endowment for student and faculty support will become one of the top priorities in our going forward as an institution partnered with our foundation. And I also want to mention in that fifth pillar that as we go forward, we are good stewards of state resources. We are living in a state facility. All of these buildings are on state land. We are a state research university, public, and it's our responsibility to be a steward of those resources. And I don't think it's an unreasonable stretch to say that we are going to be renovating and adding on to those resources for our students and our faculty and academic program success over the next 5 years. And I would suggest that we think about renovating about 20 classroom learning spaces every year for the next 5, for a total of about 100 new spaces completely renovated. Top-line IT, top-line integrative learning resources, top-line facilities for our students, our faculties, and our staff to teach and learn in. So this is our 2020 vision for the future. Our road to exceptional. These are some of the things that we will be focusing on together as a faculty staff here at the University of North Dakota to do all of these things. They're all tied together. I don't have to reemphasize any of that for this audience. Let me just say that I've been very, very impressed with all of you in this room as you have worked hard. There have been some that I'd like to outline because I work with them almost on a daily basis. Our Vice President for Student Affairs, Lori Reeser, has partnered almost daily with our Provost, Dr. DiLorenzo, have worked with all of the deans, directors of our faculty and staff programs, looking at ways to remove barriers to student success. Let me give you a few examples here. The sequencing of our courses. Are we aligning our courses in such a way that they are maximally beneficial to our students? Do we have conflicting course scheduling? How can we minimize the number of courses that are offered at the same time, courses that students have to complete a degree program? If we offer them at the same time, it complicates success. How do we use data that will help us flag whether or not we have problems in our sequencing, courses bumping up against one another? I've already mentioned advising. I'm going to mention it again. How could we build a student-centered approach to advising where we mentor these students through, in a very hands-on way, if necessary, through a sequential curriculum over 4 years? How do we create a straightforward path to degree completion? This is going to be one of our major efforts on campus, working between student affairs and academic affairs to achieve this. I've been kind of fascinated now. We mentioned IT just a moment ago. There's a program that we have introduced and pioneered on our campus in many ways called predictive analytics. This is a very powerful integrative tool that I think is going to help us use data to achieve even greater success in some of those metrics, course scheduling, for example, that I just mentioned to you. We can use some of these predictive analytics to address some of the pitfalls that are in front of us in meeting retention rates, in meeting graduation rates, meeting the overall goals that we're setting for ourselves in student success. Some of these predictive analytics programs network us into other institutions using similar programs, and it fascinates me in many ways that if we could network in with, say, 15 or 20 other institutions, maybe we could learn something about what we could do to outline the sequence of courses in a degree program that would even better help a student to complete that degree program. Kind of reduce some of the meandering that I certainly experienced myself in my undergraduate years, but maybe we can use some of these predictive analytics to be even more analytical on the programs that we know will be beneficial to student success. There's another program, and I love the names of these things. This one's called Starfish. Starfish is kind of fun because it helps us target at-risk students as they become at risk. We can follow some of the metrics of student behaviors and identify an individual student that may be on the verge of a problem but isn't quite yet. So using Starfish and some of these other analytical tools, I think we can do a better job for our students in assuring their success. I think it's very important, too, as we look at student success, that we enrich the environment to make it very challenging, very rewarding for our students. And there are a whole bunch of things that we're going to continue to strengthen. We have an EngageUND working group going forward that is partnering with the City of Grand Forks to create all manner of opportunities for students' experiential learning. Very, very high impact educational practices based on what we think we know going forward. And this is going to include more internships, more experiential cooperative learning opportunities, service learning opportunities, as well as more opportunities for undergraduate research, maybe even study abroad, internationalization, living and learning communities, student organizations. We can put all of these in place that will then help us assure the foundation for undergraduate success. We put about $35,000 towards those internships, and the city has matched that. So I think we're going to see more and more connection between the university and our city going forward with this EngageUND working group. I have some other plans for our students as well. I want to put an emphasis on investing much more heavily in scholarships. Deanna, I come back to you. Especially recruiting students into certain areas of strength within the university. Put an emphasis on recruiting highly capable students, increasing the quality of that entering class every year, to the point where we will see more and more nominations for Truman scholarships, Fulbright scholarships, those prestigious awards that our students can and do earn, and we will continue to emphasize that here at UND. Also want to emphasize that we're going to be investing more and more in faculty over the next 5 years. Want to increase endowments for named fellowships, named professorships, named chairs. These will help us as we provide leadership in our departments and our colleges with enhanced recruiting of the individuals that we want as colleagues and that we need as colleagues here at the university. I have been very, very concerned that we not grow an inordinate discrepancy between scholarship opportunities between, say, the STEM disciplines and the humanities and the arts. And to that end, I've asked our provost to put aside a significant amount of money as seed money, $125,000 to start with, coming up in the next few months, that would support faculty activities in the humanities, the performing, and the visual arts, recognizing that we need stimulation, we need some influence here to help groups come together for collaboration in these areas, in the humanities, visual, and performing arts. Now, as we invest more, we will expect more of each of us here at the university as we continue on the road to exceptional. I'd like to really stretch on this one, and Deanna, I hope you're listening. By 2020, with the help of our Alumni Association and Foundation, our goal is to add $100 million to the endowment for student scholarships and for faculty endowed chairs. This is the way we will grow the core of the University of North Dakota, our students and our faculty. We need to transform then our teaching space. As we continue to work on the learning environments for our students, we have to have more interactive space, more IT-based space, smarter classrooms, and I think we can do as many as 100 by 2020. And we've got some really good examples already starting up. Our legislature has helped us with our new School of Medicine and Health Sciences building, our new law school building. I think we're going to see some model space in those facilities within just the very next few months as they come online and those classes start to use them. We also have to have a very highly reliable modern technology base on our campus. The infrastructure for technology is absolutely vital to our continued success as a research university. Our State Board of Higher Education recently unanimously approved a collaborative center for computation and data. This is part of a system-wide initiative that will bring high-performance computing into the system, taking advantage of the IT facility on this campus, the Northern Tier network for high wideband throughput with, I started to say electrons, with the data that's flowing through the pipe. This is designed to serve our entire state. This is an economic development as well as an educational initiative, and it will be very, very important to the future of our planning going forward to develop high-performance computing. Also want to invest in programs, students, faculty, facilities, and our programs. I think one of the best things we've had going, and one of the things that will continue into the future, is our Great Conversations program, but we'll put more behind it so that we can have more on an annual basis, bringing in individuals in all of the disciplines important to the university so that we can interact with them, our students can interact with them, and we can benefit from their experience and their scholarship. I want to also emphasize that we're going to become much more globally engaged. We have membership right now in the 12th Internationalization Laboratory cohort of the American Council on Education. This will put more and more emphasis on internationalization on this campus. We already have 50 some odd international programs and students on this campus. If we are going to be a globally impacting university, and we already are, we need to have more of that enterprise. And in research, I think we can all share in a goal of moving up in the rankings. Partly this has to do with expenditures. It also has to do with production of graduate students, doctoral students. And to that end, this is going to take a lot of work on all of our parts. I think it's important to note that all research universities not only have regional and national impact, but global impact. I've just mentioned some of this. We have to be very aggressive in our innovation, our scholarship, our entrepreneurship. We currently have a total economic impact that exceeds $1.4 billion this year, and we can do more. This is what our state expects of us, and I think we have the potential and the capabilities within our students, our faculty, our staff, and our administration to achieve that goal. So $125 million in sponsored program research expenditures, I believe, is within our reach. Now we're going to be searching for new leadership for our Vice President for Research and Economic Development. And with the retirement of Interim Dean Swisher from our School of Graduate Studies, we'll be looking for new leadership in graduate education as well. We've had a few changes on our campus, and going forward, I think this is going to contribute to that $125 million expenditure goal. I want to acknowledge the work of Tom Erickson. I don't know if Tom is in the room at the moment, but he's the director of the Energy and Environmental Research Center. All of the staff at the EERC now is working very closely with our College of Engineering and Mines to do not only applied research, developing the solutions that our state needs in energy and environmental issues, but to develop some of the basic foundations for those solutions through basic and fundamental research in the College of Engineering and Mines. And then I guess finally on the research issue, a strong library is absolutely core. It's central to the success of our research enterprise. And we're going to be spending a great deal of attention and about $7.8 million projected dollars into our library expansion and renovation for the Chester Fritz. Want to continue how to adapt more digital resources to the Chester Fritz Library as we expand it for success in our research enterprise. As I begin to sort of wind down here, I want to emphasize that one of our responsibilities to our state is to meet some of the immediate needs that will be continuing to face us over the next 5 years. And I think most importantly here is the Healthcare Workforce Initiative that we have put over on the School of Medicine, Health Sciences, and all of our health professionals as we go forward. The state has seen fit to fund this. We're going to have 16 new students in the medical school, some 30 new students in health sciences, some resident slot increases by 17 over the coming year. This will be a significant addition to our ability as a university to meet the state's workforce needs in health. The new building, which all of you are enjoying watching go up over on the northeast corner of campus, that was $124 million funding in the last legislative session. That's about 1.5 years away from completion. And if Dr. Wendell isn't pulling my leg, I can share with you that that is the equivalent of just over 18 hockey rinks. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
So square footage is going to be of tremendous help to the university. If you haven't noticed, I will draw your attention to it. There are quite a few construction projects on campus, and in the next few years they will be coming online and will help us tremendously. We have mentioned medicine. The School of Law is coming online. It's right next door. Wilkerson is making good progress. That will be a renovated and expanded dining commons for our students and for all of us who choose to eat there. These are coming in on time and on budget. That's all good. I should also mention that the UND High Performance Athletics Center is the enormous facility that we see over on the east side of campus. That should be operational by the end of summer, ready to move into in the fall. If you've been out on the west side of campus, you've seen that ground has been broken for the new Robin Hall complex that will be an addition just immediately west of Ryan Hall, and that's our new UAS Research Center going in with our aerospace college. And we've got just a few more dollars, Hisham, to close on our collaborative energy complex. And we should see that coming under construction, I think, within the next few months. I almost don't know where to enter the discussion of our nickname and logo progress. Last Friday afternoon, I received in my office about 5 o'clock the report from the task force that we had appointed to develop the process to get us into selecting a new name and logo. I have received that. I'm reviewing it very carefully. It is an excellent report. It is very thorough. It was exactly what the university needed, and I want to thank all of the people who worked on this task force for developing a very functional and operational set of recommendations. As soon as I can figure out how to start implementing those recommendations, you'll see a new group formed that will receive names and nominations for a new nickname, and then ultimately, I hope within a very short period of time, a selection of a new nickname for our university's athletic programs and for our university. So let me summarize here very, very quickly. You've just heard an overview of our 2020 vision for the next 5 years. The road to exceptional, I think, is pretty clear. It's going to take a great deal of work, a great deal of commitment, but I cannot imagine a faculty and staff that is more up to a challenge than this one. We can succeed in this. We can rise in the rankings. We can continue to be a strong academic institution with even better outcomes for our students. This is something that I know we can do, and we can do it together. We will equip our students to be very, very successful. We will continue our focus on retaining and pushing through our programs the very best and brightest students we can attract to our university. We will continue to provide programs, academic programs that people need and want, and we will do it in a way that it is sequenced and appropriate so that they can succeed in completing those programs in a reasonable amount of time, and this will help us in attracting more enrollments. We will build a world-class research institution, and we have started on that initiative. We are well ranked. We can be more highly ranked, and this is a goal for us to shoot for as we increase our sponsored program expenditures. We will provide more opportunities for our students and faculty to be supported. Maybe we can reach $100 million endowments for support of our students through scholarships and endowed chairs for our faculty. And we will continue to work on our classroom capacities. So I hope you can see why I am really excited about the future of UND. There are so many great things happening here. It's fun to get up every morning and come to work and just see what the challenges will be, what solutions together we can achieve, and what our accomplishments can be at the end of every day. I want to thank you for letting me serve as your president. This is an honor for me, and it is something that I have enjoyed for the last 7 years and look forward to achieving these goals with you. So we couldn't get to this point, though, if I didn't acknowledge an awful lot of people. We have exceptional students on this campus, and I acknowledge their leadership through their Senate and through all of the work that they do on our campus. I also want to emphasize that we have just a remarkable creative faculty working for and with those students. They achieve all of the advising and the mentoring along with our staff that is important to the student's success. We have an amazing, dedicated staff on this campus. I want to tell you how much pride I take on a daily basis in the achievements of our staff in supporting all of our academic programs, our departments, our faculty, our facilities. The staff on this campus is truly remarkable. They are exceptional. And finally, I want to acknowledge the fact that I so much appreciate the outstanding leadership team that I get to work with on a daily basis. The vice presidents, the cabinet members, the leaders of our Senate, all provide me with the best advice that I could possibly hope for. So thanks to all of you for listening to me for a few minutes. Thanks to all of you for creating an exceptional UND. I would be pleased to try to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you very much. Let me see if I can address a few questions that might be generated over the last 25 days. Yes, Al.
I guess the notion of growth for growth's sake doesn't appeal to me. So I'm trying to understand why we're pushing to 16,000, because it seems to me like we've really tried to have an emphasis on the quality of what we do with our students. And I think we still have a ways to go with that, as witnessed by the push to get greater retention rates, right? So can you explain to me what's the imperative or the logic behind the push to higher enrollments?
And that's a great question, and I'll do the best I can. One of the things that I get, which probably doesn't hit all of you quite as politically as it does me, the state chamber clearly is looking ahead with the development of business, industry, even though the bucket is kind of plateaued, maybe even declined a little bit. That's still there. There's still oil at the ground. There's still a lot to be done with our energy industry. We've seen the demographics of our state change a little bit. We're starting to see in maybe 5 years an increased number of students coming through our public education system. We'll have more high school students graduating. I think too within our region, don't want to make this point too strongly, but we are definitely competing with other institutions. For better or worse, right or wrong, good or bad, we are. So as I look at institutions within the region, and I will put us up with the bigs, the AAU schools, we have to recognize that those students, our students, are shopping and looking for opportunities to go to where the strongest academic programs are. So when I set the goals for 16,000, it could be a stretch goal. It is not growth for growth's sake. It is intended to provide the financial and the competitive and the response to our state that I think is expected of the University of North Dakota. And it's pretty clear that I've had in my conversations with state board members that this also has their blessing. They know that we have to get slightly larger. I don't think 1,000 students over 5 years is too big a stretch. I hope that begins to hit some of the points that I get hit with from state leaders. I hope it's not perceived as growth for the sake of growth. We don't need necessarily to be bigger for bigger's sake, but for financial reasons, programmatic reasons, state workforce reasons, position within the state, I think it's necessary. It's a great question. Yes?
If there's going to be an increase in retention rates, there's probably going to need to be an increase in high-impact practices in the classroom for students. Are there going to be new resources available to be able to fund and grow those sorts of high-impact practices that will be needed?
We will certainly try, as we prioritize those programs, to identify those funds as we reallocate within the various divisions of the university. And the reallocation is not just within the academic program budget. It's across the university, trying to understand how we reposition funds in buildings and grounds and support services so that if we can identify those technologies that are necessary, as you described, yes, we will do everything we can to provide funding in support of those technologies. We've got very good people now working in that SOAR program. I'm looking at Steve Light right in front of me here, who's taken the lead in this initiative. I might just ask if Steve would like to respond to that, because you've got far deeper understanding than I do.
Thank you, President Kelley. Well, there's really two things going on there. I think that the intent of the SOAR process, as President Kelley described, is to be able to identify where we want to invest and to be able to through a peer-led process with faculty and staff input, to identify areas where the investment of resources will pay off, where we will have a return on that investment. And I think one area where can see that return on investment is through student engagement. And President Kelley has mentioned that as a priority as well. I would fully anticipate that the EngageUND working group, the global engagement working group, and also the work with deans and others to identify those high-impact practices and where we should invest our resources, would allow for an alignment of the outcomes of the SOAR process and the new budget model that President Kelley mentioned, the Huron model, and should point us in the direction toward the road to exceptional where the investment of resources brings the biggest return. So that's what I would hope to see.
Timmy, I hope that addresses your question. I see you're smiling, but you're always smiling. I hope that addressed it. Other questions? Yes.
Thank you for all your comments related to faculty, and obviously all of those pillars touch on the importance of faculty at the university. You're probably aware that a committee and different folks involved in the University Senate have been talking about a shared governance program that includes the possibility of establishing a faculty senate. And my question for you today is, if the University Senate votes to establish an independent faculty senate to dissolve the current structure and have that independent faculty senate operate independently and along with the staff and student senates in providing you advice, will you support that?
Yes, I will. Melissa and I have talked about that along with other leaders on campus. I only have one hope, and that is that we not magnify our governance bureaucracy. It's sort of the old clothes in the closet kind of thing. If you buy a new shirt, you got to throw one out. Otherwise, your closet's going to be dysfunctional pretty quickly. So the answer is yes. And as the leadership and I have talked about this, it's an enthusiastic yes, with the caveat that we not create even more cumbersome bureaucracy for governance within UND. I'll leave that up to the leadership and our faculty and senates to try to figure out how best to achieve that. But I'm very enthusiastic about a faculty senate. I think that's an appropriate thing to have because we have vibrant staff senate, vibrant student senate, and very solid leadership in both of those entities. I don't see any reason why that should not funnel up to me through the cabinet, just as it has. And I think this gives the faculty a voice that is not in among all of their colleagues. Did I see a hand behind? Marcia.
Yes, you spoke about, and I'm glad that you did, about the retention issues with students, also in terms of scheduling of classes. And I'm wondering if you could say a little bit more about some of the issues that are problems in terms of scheduling. I know for me personally, there's problems with 75-minute classes as opposed to 50-minute classes for upper division teaching, and it's hard to do seminar courses in 50 minutes. And currently we're limited to 2 days a week to do the 75-minute classes. So I wonder if you could say something about that. If not now, maybe, I don't know.
Once again, Marcia, this one stinks.
Yeah. Thank you, Marcia. Another excellent question. So the course scheduling and progression of our students through the university is critically important, and making sure that we're talking with faculty and others about that is important as well, because how our faculty teach, how the pedagogy that informs how our students learn must be at the forefront of how we do this. But we have a lot of data that is being used and has been generated into a modeling process for the first time that actually is being pushed out to the colleges and down to the departments that tell us about when courses are scheduled, when those course conflicts occur for key courses that are required within majors, and that flag also issues of course sequencing and course progression for individual students. What that has generated is a model that actually tells us about which specific courses have flags in all of these different areas, and we're able currently to rank those courses, identify and rank those courses, and ask departments to work with those course scheduling issues very specifically. It is a brand new model. It's just been pushed out to the colleges and will come down through chairs to faculty. And what that should generate is the ability to talk about course scheduling in a way that accommodates students and at the same time engages you as a faculty member, if you teach one of those courses, to look for an accommodation that's appropriate both for you and ultimately for our students.
Does that approach the question, Marcia? Is that getting at it?
I haven't seen or heard about that yet, but I think it's a great thing.
Thanks for the question. I thought I saw a hand right over there, yes. Well, Kim, you get to go first, and then Joe. Go ahead, Joe, you've got the microphone.
Mine's a clarification question, thank you. Early on, you mentioned our mission changing by the week, it seems, and I'm wondering if you could explain what you meant by that.
Well, you know, if you've got a vibrant university, organic, if you will, we're evolving. We evolve more rapidly, I think, sometimes than we realize. Now, the foundational mission, education, advanced learning, working with our students, that's still there. But the context in which that mission continues to roll forward, in my world, is changing very, very rapidly. So that was what I meant by that, trying to get across the idea that we are not steady state, we are not status quo, and if we hang on to those notions too much, I think we'll have the world go off and leave us. So that was kind of what I meant. I tried to get across the idea that maybe I didn't select my words quite right, but we change pretty quickly, sometimes almost on a weekly basis. Thank you for listening. Kim, your turn.
Right. Okay. I want to say thank you for wearing your shoes and doing your job and letting me wear the sneakers to do mine. So thankfully you get to do a great job. And I wanted to ask, in terms of moving forward with some of the SOAR and Huron, to make sure that the quality of life is included in some of those 4 institutional goals, perhaps in the goals that do not gain revenue that actually cost the university, so that our staff and faculty can have quality. What I'm referring to is stress and workload. It's not necessarily easily found on there, but a big burden. And also ergonomics and safety. I've been in Harrington Hall, Corwin, and Chester Fritz, and look at their furniture, and it's not so good. So just looking at retaining our current staff faculty with some modifications, hopefully, to be considered in the vision. No comment necessary.
I was just going to say, I can't add to what you just said. That was extremely well put. I agree with you. If we don't have a healthy community, we can't achieve any of this. If we don't have the ability to think and to work and keep our bodies and our souls together, which is what you do, we won't succeed. So I can't add anything to what you just said. Also, we do recognize that we've got some very old facilities on our campus with chairs that have never heard the word ergonomic. Thank you. Yes.
Hi there. My name is Jeff Holm. I'm the chair of psychology, and so I say that as a prelude to these remarks. Listening to your discussion of the pillars and the various places we want to be, and particularly related to workforce development, I know that there's a committee work being done at the state regarding behavioral health. And as the chair of psychology, obviously that concerns me. And when you look at UND and you look at behavioral health, one of the issues is that we're spread across the different colleges, education, nursing, arts and sciences. So unlike the School of Medicine, that's kind of a natural place for people to look for healthcare workforce development, we don't have a unified voice. And so I know there's been a little bit of work within the School of Medicine related to this behavioral health, but I guess my question is, given the pillars, given what you talked about today, have you been involved with that at all? Has there been discussions with UND and about that, the need for behavioral health care services throughout the state and more professionals?
Jeff, I'm going to turn this back to you in just a minute, but I'm going to give you a couple of moments to think about a response. The answer is yes, and we've got a number of resources that I don't think we have connected quite as effectively as we might. We've got behavioral health professionals in nursing, in psychology, We have some behavioral health individuals working in sort of the not so flashy disciplines, communications disorders, nutrition, dietetics. It even spills over into athletic training where you get behavioral issues in with our student athletes. To the best of my knowledge, none of these are effectively connected. Now, your department has started working years ago, building the Behavioral Health Center. There's a lot more that we could do there. There's a tremendous potential there if we could figure out how best to, I don't want to say incentivize necessarily, but if we could resource that more effectively, then we could start seeing more activity funded through our sponsored initiatives for the National Institute of Nursing Research, some of the behavioral issues in the NIH, and so on. How would you connect those dots? Yes, I have thought of this, and I've had lots of discussions, and it's, you know, short of a presidential fiat, we're going to connect these dots. How would you connect those dots?
Well, I'm looking around for my version of Steve, you know, I agree with you. I really think one of the big problems is that those connections are difficult to make across, particularly across colleges. The university, in my opinion, I've been here a number of years, from particularly grant research, for example. There are a number of barriers. When we talk about barriers for retaining students, I think we need to talk about barriers for encouraging faculty to reach across not just departments, but particularly colleges. So I don't have a succinct answer to you, but I appreciate your response, and as I think about suggestions I might have, I'll make sure that they're directed to appropriate people, and I'll remind them of your question too.
Just a thought, if I work with your dean, who works with other deans, who works with the provost. I think Provost DiLorenzo and I, we've had lots of conversations about this, about how best to achieve success on issues just like that one. So don't let that one die. Let's keep that conversation going, and I would suggest that through your dean and other deans, this get brought to the provost. It already has been brought to the provost's attention. So thanks.
Thank you.
Eric, member of the State Board of Higher Education.
So I apologize for worrying.
So is that Ohio State?
Yes, it is.
Next question.
But at least we're not Michigan. Thanks, Eric. The question really goes back to retention. So we know that at the state board level, retention's a major issue. We know at the legislature it's a major issue. And one of the key things, you know, analytics takes us so far, and we've heard nice presentations at that level regarding the use of analytics as a predictive tool to identify when students are at risk and so forth. One of the easiest things to do is faculty engagement outside of the classroom with students. Okay, in other words, faculty at UND open doors for students. And we're not talking about just educationally, but also figuratively. And that interaction between students, whether it's at the wellness center or on the quad or walking between committee meetings and seeing students and engaging students, is a very important element of really making that student feel like, hey, wow, this person actually took time to say hi. And as we engage students and we make them increase that element of feeling welcome, that might be a very good mechanism by which to enhance retention, because at the end of the day, analytics takes you so far. You know, these are young people who are away from home for the first time. They're interacting in a way that they haven't with others, perhaps. And so, you know, it's a huge growth phase for them. So what I would suggest is we need to energize the faculty to get these connections going outside the classroom and produce an environment in which faculty are opening the doors for students. And sometimes that means literally. So I'd like to hear your comments on that, because I know some institutions have used this and have very successful enhancement and retention.
I think your point is very well taken. It comes back to Ann's point about what is too big and are we getting bigger for the sake of getting big. I don't think 16,000, certainly not 14.8, is too big to do the kinds of things that you're talking about. No question, all of us would do well if we could get a bit more of a personal acquaintance with our students. It's probably easier for our faculty than it is, say, for me, even though I try to walk around and intersect with as many people as I can when I can. But what I've noticed is the answer to your question, and that is the more personal your interactions, the more successful both of you will be. So all I can say is let's find a way to do that. If we can commit ourselves to getting out and walking around, intersecting with a student group, going to a student activity, finding a way to become invited to a student activity, I think all of that will enhance Exceptional UND. I thank you for that. It's a great observation. And you don't have to wear that jersey anymore. One last question. I can see that our hour has up. Yes?
I just have one question. I appreciate President Kelley, Denise Sturgis from Chesterford's Library. I appreciate your recognizing the staff, and God knows the provost has been excellent, both at Staff Senate as well as at Chesterford's, recognizing our importance. I look at this and I see the exceptional. I look at this and see the exceptional, and I wonder where the staff is. I mean, you've mentioned it, but if you're looking for a cutting-edge, qualified campus, you're going to need to put some money into the staff as well. God help us, I came from the University of Missouri. And what we did was we pumped money in. There were classes, and there was no advancement without knowing this stuff in the background. We have a wonderful group. I can't remember, it used to be you two and now. And I've taken classes and they're wonderful, but it's all been my electives on my part. I would really like us to be able to go forward, build in tracks, and that also helps then with your advancement. I mean, it helps morale, it gives us some kind of a grading point, and frankly, it's good for the university and the students as well, and we are the people that the students see every day. When faculty don't have time, when administrators don't have time, the kids come to us. So I'm ringing my own bell and our staff on campus, but you know it, your smiling faces, I can tell. We are the front line, and we could use some help too.
Your message is heard loud and clear. Thank you. I think I'll not comment on that at the present time because that would be another 5-minute answer, but thank you for the observation, and it was heard loud and clear.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thanks for helping us with an Exceptional UND.